Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are now live. Welcome to a conversation with. This is a special edition because we have a lot to talk about. And I am your humble host, Floyd Marshall Jr. And as always, I am joined by my amazing co-host, Okima T. Moore. And today we have a returning champion, Patrick Coker, WGA director, showrunner, writer, executive producer, and all that other good stuff. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a special edition of a conversation with, because today we're going to be talking about original films and how, as Black filmmakers, we can take advantage of the fact that original films is still the way to go. And I base that on, what we've seen happening at the box office with Sinners, with the amazing Ryan Coogler, with him making an original film, Sinners, and the massive amount of money that it's making. And just let me read something for the audience, because I want you guys to have a little insight as to what we'll be talking about. And then I'm going to let Okima T. Moore and the amazing Patrick Coker introduce themselves, give a little backstory on how he got started in the business. And we're waiting for one more guest, but Mr. Moore will be here soon. So I was reading this article from the dailies a couple of weeks ago, and it basically talked about Sinners' second week was almost as big as its first, dropping a small increment of only 6% at the box office, which is absolutely amazing. Normally, Hollywood films, when they get out of the first week run, it's usually a 50% decline. And Ryan Coogler's film only dropped 6%, which is absolutely amazing. So they basically asked what is going on. And they talked about a March survey revealed something studios should have already known, that 72% of moviegoers still think theaters are worth the money. Only 6% would rather wait for streaming when they're actually excited about a movie. The problem was never getting people to theaters. It was giving them something worth showing up for. And Sinners was definitely a movie worth showing up for. So without further ado, welcome to a conversation with Mr. Coker. How are you?
All right, and yourself?
Phenomenal. And Miss Moore?
I'm good. I'm excited about this conversation because I think that, in all of this celebration, people are also, I want to make sure that we also bring in the reality of what's happening. I am absolutely celebrating what Ryan has done, but I don't want our up and coming, as well as our experienced indie creatives, to remember that it took him 2 shorts, film school, a Fruitvale Station, 3 Creeds, and 2 Black Panthers to get here. And so you can't think that this model being what it is and making an original movie and having the zest and the zeal is all it takes. And so I'm excited that we have Patrick, and when he gets here, James, because both of these individuals celebrate all the great things, but they are realists if they are anything else, and they do not pull punches, nor do they saturate with, diabetic sugar what this takes to get it done. They are very open and honest about the hard work and all of the things. We named all of Patrick's accolades, but I brag on him a lot to my students, to my clients, to my peers, that, he's done all this great things, but I'm like, you have to understand that my boy directed his first episode of television in his early 50s, right? And so the 25-year-old ingenue getting out of film school that everybody's excited about is great, but that person also is trying to figure out life. And so they're not going to get Ryan's deal today. And so I think that the celebration of what's happening and that it's possible may mean you only need to do a Fruitvale Station, 1 Creed, and 1 Black Panther to get there. But the work still is the work. And I don't mean to piss in nobody's cornflakes. I just like to be honest with folks, because they get excited and then forget the work part.
Yeah, that's very true. And the thing about Ryan Coogler's work is it's immaculate. It's immaculate. I saw Sinners last week in a full theater, and myself and the person I was with, we were the only Black people. So, and I say that to say, when they try and say that white people don't want to see our stories. That is not true. And I'm telling you that from experience. Like I said, full theater, only 2 Black people out of like a 250 seat theater. And I would say 80% of the people sat through all the credits too, which is really amazing. And
shout to Ryan Coogler for taking that Marvel mantra and going in and being like, we're not done. Oh, wait, we're still not done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I missed one of them. I only saw the one.
The first time I saw it, I waited the second.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the movie is amazing on so many different levels. And that's why it works. And the other thing why it works is the timing, because people are tired of IP driven things. I know this story. Now you're telling me the story. It was a comic book. Now you're putting it on screen. It was a novel. Now you're putting it on screen. It was a TV show. Now you're putting it on screen. People are looking for things that haven't been done, for stories that haven't been told. They're looking for something to expand their mind, and that's what he did with this. He gave them something. He gave us something that we hadn't seen before, and it's kind of like this TV show on, I think it's on Netflix, Adolescence. Have you seen it?
Yes, the infamous Oneers.
Yes, which gives us something, a brand new story told in a brand new way. So it catches you on so many different levels, and that's the same thing Ryan Coogler did. And he gave us something to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the most important thing. And it was done like the filmmaking was immaculate. And that's what a lot of people, especially in this era of Tubi and everybody doing $5,000 movies and getting them put on Tubi and making $15,000 profit. And that's good because, you know, you shot in 3 days or whatever. But, you know, and they're taking the business credo of somebody who's a billionaire and doing what he did, and doing it worse than he did. And he didn't do it well.
And he didn't do it well with resources.
Right. And so what I said, what's happening is in Black film on that level, we're getting taught to appreciate less.
Mediocrity. Call it out.
No. Calling it mediocre is being generous. You know, it's just bad filmmaking on so many levels. But we're being taught, if you keep getting fed, you know, steakums, and that's all you know for steak, you're gonna think that's good steak because you had never had a ribeye. Right. And what we're being given a lot of is being given a lot of steakums. You know?
But can I jump in and say, I want to preface this conversation to those that then get in the, well, everybody, bad film and or bad filmmaking doesn't mean that the production value, or should I say, let me fix that. Good film and or good filmmaking doesn't mean you have $1 billion production value, $1 million productions, big. It doesn't mean grandiose. No. It just means that you started with a script that had a beginning, a middle, and an end, that had a climax and a turning point we could understand, that gave us a hero or an anti-hero we could root for, an antagonist we wanted to love to hate, whether it was a person, place, or thing, or you took that entire set of structure, flipped it on its head, but still made it make sense.
Yeah.
It also means that you didn't have to have you didn't have to have Ruth Carter on wardrobe. You didn't have to have, you know, the biggest, best DP. You didn't have to have, you know, $1 million China ball. Like, you could have a China ball, a C-stand that's doubled, and like some key lights and still make a good thing. So we're not talking about the elitist space of how much it had to cost you. We're talking about the intention space of how much you wanted it to look great.
And working with what you have realistically.
Because we've done both all over the place.
Yeah, you have to work with what you have realistically. You know, one of the things that I think a lot of people should look into is they have iFilm festivals.
Yep.
Where the whole movie is shot on an iPhone. or
Microfilm
just on a phone. And people are making some amazing films.
or microfilm festivals where you are telling, because if you have a problem with story and structure, microfilm festivals are 1 to 3 minute films. And that is the essence of learning to tell a lot of story in a little bit of time. We collectively know a human who, while their films may not have been great, they had a gift for telling a lot of story in a little bit of time. And if had they taken that gift and given the opportunity to make the thing to someone who was better at it, they would probably still be in the space.
Yes. And and the other thing is, when you say you have to be intentional, you have to be intentional about everything, not just your filmmaking, not just your budget. What you're starting with, and
James, I'm going to ask you to mute, but welcome, because we have an echo coming in. See?
Where do I mute?
See? If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the mute button.
Got it?
There we go.
Yeah. So I remember when I first got into filmmaking, one of the books I read, which I think is key for a lot of beginning filmmakers, especially those who don't have a budget, is Rebel Without a Crew, Robert Rodriguez. The last chapter of that book changed my life. The first screenplay I wrote was called Burnout, and was about a street motorcycle race that started on the Jersey side of the George Washington Bridge and ended at the Staten Island Ferry on the 4th of July, or the Friday before the 4th of July at 3:00. Do you know how much money that would cost to shoot? We're talking, that's a $200 million movie right there. And that's the first screenplay I wrote, thinking it was going to get produced. And then I read Robert Rodriguez's book, Rebel Without a Crew. I was just like, oh, I'm going about this all wrong. And it's amazing. Like I said, that if you're a filmmaker and you don't have that book, get it today. If you don't read nothing else, read the last chapter where he talks about the list you make before you write a script. Insane, just amazing. And I think a lot of times what we do as filmmakers, we write, especially as writer directors, we write the film we want to make, but we don't think about the budget we have. So we might write a great film, but the budget we have cannot bring out that greatness. So it winds up being mediocre or less. Wherein, get the book and read the last chapter, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
And you know what? I talk about this all the time when I'm talking to, interestingly enough, new filmmakers, intermediate filmmakers, and sometimes veteran filmmakers. And the one thing that always strikes me is they all want to be creative, which is phenomenal, because you need to have a creative mindset. But the one thing that they often too many of them leave out is the business aspect of this. And at the end of the day, it's called show business for a reason. Because like you said, you can write an amazing script, but do you have the budget to make that film? And sometimes, and it's nothing wrong with writing, whatever comes to your imagination, because that can be something that you come back to later down the line.
But
once you have established yourself, once investors trust you, or whoever trusts you with their money. But the thing is, you got to start where you are. But even when you're starting small, you have to keep in mind that this is a business and that you are creating a product. And you can't create or make a Rolls Royce with Toyota type money.
And the other thing,
please,
or if I can interject,
please,
is what and whom are you making the product for?
That part. That's the part that people miss. Because my thing is, you can write the big, grandiose, blowing stuff up and all that for yourself to get it out of your body. Because sometimes I just need to excrete the thing, right? But if I know that I still want to tell some version, some iteration of this, and I'm doing it for a festival run to be a calling card for what I can do, right? then that is a situation where I'm going to take that idea that I have with this grandiose stuff and figure out how do I scale it down to still have a beginning, a middle, and an end, a climax that people like, yada, yada, and I can afford. Because people really don't think about back ending into their script. Like you can back yourself into the script that you're writing because you know what it's for. If you know that you're trying to get into Cannes or Sundance, that's a certain type of script. Now you need to go watch all the winners from the last 5-6 years and see what that kind of script looks like.
So if I have a perfect example. Stefan Bristol, great filmmaker out of NYU, did a short film about a young girl and her friend who invented a time machine. And they go back and try and stop her brother from being killed by a cop. He did a short.
Wasn't that his thesis film?
Yeah, that was his thesis film. Short was amazing. I saw it at Martha Vineyard's Film Festival. He actually beat my short for the prize. And I wasn't mad. I was mad that he didn't have a feature of it at the time. But he wound up making the feature of that. Going back to what Okima was saying, you have this grandiose idea and you write that, but what can you extract from that will make people say, hey, with this short that you did, do you have a feature? And so they can say, so you can say, yes, I do. So they can then finance that and give you all the toys to make it the way that you envision it in your mind. But right now, talking about your budget, what can your budget do to make this look amazing, this idea look amazing?
We're talking about all this writing. We have our last guest that has joined us. I'm going to ask him to unmute, but turn his volume down. And I would like us to welcome the amazing James Moorer, no relation, but still my brother, to a conversation with. Hi, James.
Good afternoon and good evening, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well today.
We are.
So
welcome
good to be here among honored friends. So good to be back with family. Hope you guys are doing well today.
We are. We've been talking about, well, you came in the midst of the conversation. As a screenwriter, as a person who represents screenwriters and artists, as well as who ran and runs a company that helps writers become writers. What's your take on the conversation?
Well, let me give you a little feedback. Do you know what we're talking about? The post that you shared the other day regarding sinners and the fact that people just need a reason to go back to the movie theater. The post that I shared the other day, did you reshared it? So that's basically what we're talking about.
And the interesting thing, and I want to start by jumping off of what Patrick had said, the last part that he was talking about with Robert Rodriguez's book, because I read so many scripts from screenwriters who it's clear did not read that book. It's clear they're not taking the business of screenwriting into account and getting emotional, if you will, and upset because their project does not meet not only the budget that they perceive, but like they have not also done anything or done enough to prove themselves within the industry that they are an asset. Now, one of the things that that I love to make sure that people know is that when you are trying to approach folks to make a movie, and it's not your money, once again, it's not your money. You need to demonstrate to them
ROI.
Number one, that all the whys. You need to make them comfortable. You need to make them comfortable about doing business with you, right? And I get to a point where I wonder sometimes about part of the the education system and for screenwriters especially And so many of these people coming out of these schools and whatnot with this idea that I'm just going to write one screenplay. I'm just going to write one. And that one screenplay is going to make me millions of dollars. I'm going to get a 6-figure check, just like this guy that I saw on Facebook last. And I'm like, you know, because they'll like approach me about it. I'm like, I hate to be the one to bring you the bad news, but you know, that dude's been working for the last 9 years. He's been building relationships. He's probably written about 3 or 4 dozen screenplays before he got to that place. He's also probably done some shorts and done some things to prove himself to people in the industry to demonstrate that you're worth taking a risk on. And I think we're in a particular moment in time where original story has an opportunity, not necessarily an opportunity. I want to go so far as to say an obligation. I'll go that far. Original story has an obligation at this point to kind of lead the way. It's interesting, Floyd, you and I had a conversation about maybe 6 or 7 months ago about the fact that this feels like we're kind of repeating history. Like this feels like I often wonder if it's like, is this what Oscar Micheaux felt like when he was trying to make films, when he was doing the things that he did, and all of the obstacles that had been purposely put in place systemically to try and keep him down, and yet and still he persevered anyway. And so what I'm seeing, and the numbers back me up. The numbers back me up. For as many people who love to say, like, I'm so tired of Hollywood, they're always putting out the same brand new version of this movie 8, 9 times. That's a business decision.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. It's like if I already own the IP, why should I go spend some more money on a brand new IP? That's a business decision.
Plus,
but that's
not
not
if I
to say.
not just if I own the IP. I own the IP, and it's proven itself well,
Right.
Time again.
It's made money in the past.
Thank you.
Mission Impossible.
It's got a track record. So
because baby, he 89 still chasing them bikes.
And guess what? I'm going to see that because I got to see the last one, and I got to see the last one. I got to see it.
I didn't say that I wasn't going to see him at 89
Listen.
chasing the bikes, but he 89 still chasing the bikes.
Listen, when they make Fast and the Furious 35, I'm gonna be there to see it. I'm gonna be there to see it. Why? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
You know, as long as I'm still excited, as long as there's still some oh shit moments, yeah. You know.
But see, that's the thing. I think that these new filmmakers are missing, because not only do you have to figure out how to make what you can afford, if you are thinking of doing this and serving this industry for an extended amount of time, you also have to realize, like you said, you can't just have one in the chamber. Like, what else is coming after that? No. So am I making this thing? Am I making this thing that I can either, and I'm not saying it has to be the same IP. It can be other ideas, but you got to have something to follow up, or
I'm gonna have to
let me finish my thought, or you're in a community that allows you to say, well, I don't, but I work with this person, and you know what, let's make that. Are you either cross-pollinating or something, because the one and done is hard. Like, mentally, that's hard.
So let me tell you what I've been seeing is that a very famous, very successful person who shall remain nameless, who makes low quality TV shows and films and has been able to turn that into a multi-billion-dollar business. That's the business model that has been set forth that these people are following. Mm-hmm. And you can't tell them it doesn't work because they've seen it work.
Oh, you mean when you make People and then make the spinoff of People and then make the other kind of People?
Yeah. And People's cousins.
And none of them are good, but they all make money. Like I said, I was online and this guy was bragging that, you know, he made a movie, he made a feature film he shot in 3 days, for $5,000. And in 1 month on Tubi, he made $15,000, which is $10,000 profit.
It's hard to turn that. Turning those facts down is hard. And here's the thing. I'm not even going to shame the folks that do it, get away with it, whether it's done well or not, right? Because I ain't got no money. So like, clearly they doing something I'm not doing. But I also, but I will say this. I will say this. You have to also decide who you're going to be in this thing.
Right.
Right? Who do you want to be in this thing? Because I mean, my version of I don't have no money today is not my yesterday's version of I don't have no money, because I made the decision of who I wanted to be. And I had people smarter than me telling me how not to be the antithesis of what I thought or what I decided on that. Because I remember being on a job, a very big job. It was my first network television job, and I hated it because I was like, what am I doing here? And I called Patrick and was like, I'm a quit. And he was like, I will fight you. You are not going to quit. You're going to stay there because it's hard and it's challenging, but those people need you. And right now you need the cachet of them. And had I not listened to the person that was smarter than me, that had been teaching me this whole time, I wouldn't have the career that I have, because that was a jump off point for me. So like, I know that I haven't grown in the trajectory or the timetable that I wish, but I know I've grown a lot faster than other people because I made my decision early of who I was going to be. And the people around me held my feet to that fire, but also taught me a few cheat codes. Yeah. So you have to decide who you want to be in this thing. And if you're going to go up the hill fast with something that's mediocre or less, because that's also viable. And it's a viable choice in this business. I'm not even judging. It's a viable choice in the business that we're in. Or are you going to decide to pack your creative integrity and go up the hill a little bit faster because that bag is a lot heavier?
But see, this is and it's really interesting as you put it like that, because Floyd said earlier that we have to remember that this is show business, but you have to decide what's more important, the art or the business. Because for some people, what's more important is the business. They're here to make $1. And that means that they can do low quality work and turn $1. That's all that matters. For other people, it's about the art. And you have to find it. For me, you've had to find an equilibrium of both.
I sit in the center.
You have to find an equilibrium of both. And I have turned down money for scripts because the people who want to do them, I didn't like, and they wanted to pay me for the script, but I didn't like them as people. That was not smart business. And I own that, and so you have to decide. But there are people who are out there, like I said, they're making these less than mediocre films, but they're making a profit, because how they see it is, I can make a bunch of mediocre films and make a profit and then get enough money to do a film correctly. But my thing is,
however,
by doing those less than mediocre films,
that becomes how you make them.
Yeah.
However, I would argue this though to that. I agree with you, Patrick, but I would argue this. I think the problem, the real root of the problem, is that people get comfortable making those mediocre films and do not challenge themselves to make something greater. Because I've seen a lot. I'm sure we've all have seen a lot of them. And one of the things that I'm really good at, I read the credits. I love to read the credits. I want to know who you are, what you're doing, what's going on. But if I see 3 or 4 years later, you are making pretty much the same kind of movie that you did when you first started.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So even when it comes to, in my arena in screenwriting, I'm like, don't show me the same kind of material that you did last year. Right. Show me that your material is elevated, because you can't come to me and say, James, how do I get to the people who will put up $1 million, $2 million, $4, $5 million for a film, but you're still writing the same way and providing the same kind of entertainment, the same product that you did for the $500,000 folks. It doesn't work that way.
And you know what's interesting?
And I think that there's a comfort zone. There's a comfort zone, I think, that people who are making those kind of projects, they get into, because it's like, hey, now I've got my own little fiefdom, if you will.
Yes, but see, the thing
is, I'm cool.
Like Okima said, there's nothing wrong if that's a conscious decision you're making. But don't be upset.
True.
Right.
If you make a movie that's a 4,
that's the thing.
don't be upset that we don't treat it like it's a 6, because you made it as a 4.
Mhm.
So if we treat it as a 4, that's what it is, because that's what you made it as. Don't think now we should be like giving you a standing ovation for a 4, because that's what you went out to achieve, a 4. You didn't go out to achieve a 10.
Right.
And
Right.
you also have to think of,
Right.
am I playing the long game? Because you can make this money quickly and you can actually make it for a decent amount of time. However, when the industry shifts, as it does every couple years, there's a new thing and you can't keep up because you haven't gotten the craft under your belt. Because if you're a craftsman and you still choose to make a 4 just to make a profit, I'm not mad at you, because it may not be great, but you know how to flip the script so that every time the industry shifts, you can keep making them mediocre films however you need to do. And that still doesn't make you a craftsman. It just makes you cunning.
No, yeah, but what you're saying, you're almost right there, Okima. If you decide to make a 4 because that's a budget you have and you can make a profit of, that's great. But if somebody gives you the budget to make a 10, can you make a 4?
Right. Because you're so used to making 4s. You're so used to making 4s.
Right.
And it's so interesting that people don't, you have people that will push themselves to make that 10, but then you have some people that are absolutely comfortable with making that 4 because that's where their audience is. Their audience is at that 4.
But now, the really dangerous people are the people that think they can make the 10 and they make it 4 anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Well, no, what's dangerous about that is, what's really dangerous is the people who can make a 4 and think they can make a 10 and get a shot at making the 10 and then make the 4, and they use examples to why we can't get budgets.
There you go. That is so true.
Because you could be out here effing up the church's money for everybody.
So let me ask you guys all a question with what you just said, Patrick. So then if you get that opportunity to make the 10, but you're still making 4s, does the business acumen then have to kick in? Because you say to yourself, I'm a 4 type filmmaker, but I have 10 type money. So now how do I bring people on to make that 10 type film?
That's hard right there.
You just said it. Bring people on
who are better than you.
So let me do the second part. How do you get to those people if you're only used to hanging around 4 type people?
Because people gonna come in for the money.
Oh,
yeah. People gonna come in for the money. But here's the thing. You're turning off your ego before you're turning on your business acumen. And that's where the problem happens. And that's why it doesn't happen.
Yes.
Because it takes, I know a very close to me situation where someone is sabotaging a great thing because they cannot get over their ego. And it's like the thing they want is right in front of them, but because it's not directly in front of them, it's in front of someone in their circle. They're not paying attention to the fact that the person it's in front of is in their circle, so it's them anyway. And people get really just mystified by it's not me, when it's an us thing. Film is a contact sport and it is a team sport.
Collective sport, yeah.
It is a team sport. And if you don't understand that it's not just about you, no matter what your role, if you are the director, you can have all the vision in the world, but if your DP sucks, good luck.
If your sound person sucks.
If your sound person sucks, good. If your AD sucks, good luck. Because with all that vision, you're usually not thinking about time. And so now you're not making your day. So you're either going to cost more or not finish the thing because you've not made what you needed to make your 10 or at least 8.
Story. Yep. Yeah.
But you should be asking that question the day that you know that your first 4 is going all the way up the food chain. The first thing that you should ask before you sit down and pat yourself on the back and pat your team on the back and whatnot. Actually, immediately after that, the first thing that you could say is, how do I get to 5? And then once you get to 5, how do I get to 6?
But
your mind should always be in a place.
You have to have the loss of ego to say, I made a 4.
Right.
I want to make an 8. When I made my first film, I made it with Patrick. And when I gave him that initial script, it was a 5 maybe. Patrick helped me make it a 7, and we did a festival run that none of us expected. It was the little film that could.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's because Patrick directed it, not Okima, because Okima was nowhere near ready. Patrick helped fix that writing because Okima was still green. I had Lamar Maxon who EP'd it and produced it because Okima was still learning. Okima was used to when Okima was getting her TPS on, and she was the this and the that and the this. For that, I only had to be the writer. And once the writing was approved, I no longer had to be the writer. I just had to be the talent.
Yeah. You have to have a team. You have to have a team that's honest about their gifts and honest about your gifts. And you all have to be open to what you do. Because like when she talks about Lamar Maxon produces all my shorts and everything. Once I give Lamar the money, once the money's there, I have no say so. I'm a director now. I have no say so. He tells me where to show up. He tells me my locations, everything. I'm just talent now. They won't even let me tell you, I've shot films with them where they've used all of my equipment and wouldn't let me touch the camera. Because they said, go play with your actors, because that's what my job was. And so you have to surround yourself with a team that everybody is there to make this vision come to reality. But the other thing is, sometimes I've had situations where, as a writer, I've been paid to do a 4. And sometimes you have to, and this is when Okima talks about putting your ego aside. And this is the business aspect of it. You have to give the person who's paying you what they want, not what you think they need.
And that's hard.
It's real hard.
That's hard.
I got paid really well to write really bad.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And don't fight them on it. Do not fight them on it.
But here's the other part. My question for you is, what happens when you're hired to come in? This 4 person has believed that they are an 8 and has believed that they have been an 8 because in their world of 4s, they are the 8 of the 4s. If that makes sense, right?
It does.
And so now you've been brought in and you are used to striving for the 10, and you create at the level of the 10. And then when you try to make them work at the level of the 10, now you're the problem.
No, so you missed a critical step in that. And along all that stuff, what you missed was you get paid first. And then you give them all your gifts, and if they decide to throw them to the side, it's on them. But you have your check. Because like Floyd said, it's show business. So you make sure you get paid. You're paying me to give you this stuff. I'm giving it to you. Whether you use it or not is up to you. I was told by one guy who wanted me to write something for, paid me very well. He said, I don't want you doing that writer shit.
I remember that.
And he was paying me to write. He said, I don't want you to do that writer shit. I just want you to write what I want.
Okay.
And that's what I did. And he was very happy.
So then it goes back to, he don't want you to do the writer shit because I guess that's what his audience doesn't appreciate. So I'm going to give you what you want. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, film is a product. The script is a product. So if someone hires me to make a product in a certain way, I am being hired as a contractor. I am contracted to produce what the person is paying me to produce. You can offer suggestions, you can give input, and as Patrick said, they can take it or they can leave it. Just keep your integrity about you. But if your client is saying to you, there you go. If your client is saying, well, that's not what I want. I don't want the writer shit. I want my shit. And if that's what they want and that check clears, then I'm going to give you what you want because that's the product that they paid for.
Exactly.
And you're not obligated to put your name on it if you don't like it either. See, because that's the other part.
You're not.
Therein lies the ego again. If I got paid for it and I'm not really proud of what it is, I know I did my part. I know what I brought to the table. I ain't got to put my name.
There are a couple of things that I know people.
Baby, listen, and they will throw me on the IMDb, and I will go delete that joint so fast. My pro account makes me happy that I can manipulate whatever I need to on that bad boy. So you ain't never got the hear.
Listen, it's in my contract that my name doesn't go on it.
No, I see. I learned that lesson from you late in the game.
Yeah,
can you say that again, sir?
Yeah, it's in my contract that my name doesn't go on it. If I know you want me to write something that's not the quality that I want it to be known for, it's in my contract that my name doesn't go on it. You know,
you have all that credit.
Yeah, I'm in an enviable position because I have a team. I have a manager, a management team. I have a lawyer, and I have an agent. And they, like my lawyer told him the first time we went out, he said, "You're the product, and we're here to protect you and help you grow because we eat because of your work."
Mm-hmm.
And so he told my partner that the first time we went out to lunch, and I put out my credit card. He said, "What are you doing? You don't pay for anything. You're here to make money." So I have a team that takes care of me and makes sure that as much as they can, that my name doesn't get soiled when I get paid to write stuff that's not up to up to par. But even if you don't,
but that right there, that right there is you, Patrick, identifying, knowing, and being able to uphold your brand. Patrick Coker has a brand, and you've got people around you that are helping you protect the brand because they know that brand makes money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem I think that most screenwriters aren't figuring it out. It's like, what are they doing differently? What are they not doing that Patrick's doing? Patrick knows his brand. Everybody's out here trying to be like, no, I can do this, I can do that.
It took me a while to figure that out because I have a writing partner, Adam Wiesen, and we're known for writing two sorts of things. We're known for writing urban, and we're known for writing police procedurals. When we get calls, it's for those things, And it's funny because I have ghost written like rom-coms, and my names aren't on them, and they've been on TV and the whole nine. But I can't get paid for that under my name because that's not my brand. Right.
That's not your
people
brand.
Come to me. It's urban, and it's police procedurals. That's what people who have money have paid me to do those things. So therefore, I've been given the okay to do that because once a network pays you to do something, that's somebody with money saying he or she can do this. So everybody else says, okay, they're bona fide, they can do that. But the other things we don't know about. And just because you can write doesn't mean you can write everything.
And that goes for everything else.
Exactly.
That's not just for writers. Just because you direct really well in emotional, dramatic rom-com does not mean you can direct comedy because you may not have comedic timing.
Yeah.
Just because you do really, really well in genre, horror, sci-fi, doesn't mean that you can give me the deep drama thing that I want because that's not your lane. Now, some people can do anything because vision for them translate into vision. Like Patrick has done all of those things because Patrick is also a cinephile. So Patrick's study game and Patrick's experience game is there. I work across the board. So I can give you a really fun comedy, but I can also give you a really great commercial because I've unfortunately had to work across the board because I had to eat. So it taught me how to do a lot of things at once. I am working hard to streamline my life, right? James Moore is going to give you the thriller. He's going to give you the genre. That's what he does. But he also teaches screenwriting. So please understand that he can give you everything else if he chooses. But his brand is this thing. So you have to figure out who you are serving. What is your vision for yourself? Again, figure out your long game end goal and back yourself into it. I'm not saying not to do what you need to do so you can do what you want to do. Patrick taught me that lesson hard, early, right?
But the other thing is you have to know that, one of the things that people get caught up in is being a multi-hyphenate. And one of the things that I learned is the less hyphens you have, the more well paid you are, because you're an expert at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might want to be, maybe you're
Can't be
something
jack
in
of all trades.
production and post-production, but when you're a writer, director, producer, and all these things, what that means is more so than anything, you're probably a one-man band,
Right.
which means something is lacking. Because if you're wearing all those hats, something is lacking. Like one of the things I learned with one of the first films I made, I was doing sound. And I realized I was the wrong person to do sound, because I cared more about the picture than I did the sound. And I remember when I realized that, I went on a shoot and I was watching the sound man. And the sound man was not looking at what was going on. He had his head down with his headphones on, and they would say to him, "Was that a good take?" And the answer was yes or no, plain and simple. And he said no, they shot it over. They didn't question him or anything. The sound's not good. We have to do it over. But this person did not care about the visual. He didn't care about the amazing acting that was going on. Only thing he cared about was the
That's
sound.
not his job.
Exactly. And it's not his passion. And that's the thing about it. You have to surround yourself, especially as a beginning filmmaker, you have to surround yourself with people who want to do the job that they're doing. They're not there doing sound and they want to direct. They're not there being a DP and they want to direct. They're not there, they have to be there doing the job that they want to do. Because that's the only way you're going to get the art out of them that you need.
And you know what? Really quickly, everything that you just said, Patrick, sometimes you will have somebody doing sound, but they're a director. But sometimes you have to go on set and do sound to realize that, as you said, that's not where I want to be. Yeah. So if you're just starting out, it's nothing wrong with experimenting. I tell filmmakers all the time, if you're a director, pick up a book on writing, because you want to know how a script is formatted and how the story goes, so you can be a better director. Right. If you're an actor, pick up a book on directing. So when a director is talking to you, you're speaking the language. So it's nothing wrong with.
No. Let me say, when I was on my MFA, I took a class on producing. Mm-hmm. I got the highest mark in the class that semester, and the professor said, he went around the room and asked everybody, one thing that they learned from the class. And when he got to me, I said, I learned I don't want to be a producer. Plain and simple. It's not that I can't do it. It's just like, I don't want to. That's not what I want to do. Where there's people like my boy Lamar, that's what he wants to do. He's a producer, and that's where his passion lies. So no, there's nothing wrong with finding out where your passion lies. But there is something wrong with when you find out that you don't have a passion in that, and that if you continue to do it, you're negligent for the film to continue to do it.
You're not serving anyone by doing that.
Bitter, or you become bitter, and then you're just not fun to work with. You don't want to be here. Like I know for me,
there's a lot of bitter people out there.
Yeah, but for me, like it was a bit of a conundrum, because and this is not an arrogance, like I'm a damn good producer. And I was for a while, because I wanted to but I'm very passionate about directing. However, I recognize that I also enjoy producing when I'm working with people I like. Because Patrick can ask me to go get coffee, or he can ask me to do his schedule. I will do either one, because I have a respect for him. I enjoy working with him. Now, let me tell y'all, don't get it twisted. Patrick's an asshole. But he will tell you that himself.
Yeah, I am. But the thing about it also.
But he's also fair.
I will go get her coffee too.
If I'm doing something for him that he's asked me to do, he will take care. And so if you are, two-headed, let's say, you just have to make sure that my biggest gift is that I'm able to compartmentalize. If I'm Patrick's producer, I'm not telling him shit about how to direct, because that's not my job. I'm there to produce the thing. I bolster directorial visions every time I'm on a set. And half the time in my mind, I know I can do it better, but that's not my job. My job is to present the information that they need to do their best work. So even if I'm in my mind shadow directing that thing, that has nothing to do with anything, because I need to go make sure makeup was on time. Mm-hmm. So you have to, if you are multi-pronged, you have to really get in a place where you've made sure that you've done everything that you claim you do well. I didn't call myself a director for a long time because I wasn't confident and I wasn't knowledgeable enough. I'm still growing in that space, but I'm finally in a space where I'm confident to walk on a set if I'm directing because I've done the work, the research, the information. I didn't go to film school. So I had to go to I've been to every workshop, every forum, everything to learn all the things, and I'm still doing that. I got a class with Princess next month because she directs episodic and that's where I want to be one day. Right. So even though, okay, I just want to film whatever, it's not episodic. So who cares? Right. When I was directing Brandon and Doc, nobody in narrative gave a good goddamn. I had to start from the beginning. So you have to be able to compartmentalize yourself. If you're multi-hyphenate, when you are this thing, I don't care where you are. If you are on set to be that thing, that's it.
Listen, I was in grad school in my 40s, going on sets, working as a PA.
Same.
Taking time off my day job where I was making like $400 a day to go work as a PA for $50 to get the experience. Knowing, I remember I was on one shoot and the DP couldn't get the camera working. And it was a camera that I had sitting on my desk at home. I didn't say a word because it wasn't my job. They hired me as a PA. And when they hired me, they said, we're hiring you as a PA. We know you're a DP, we know you direct, but we're hiring you as a PA. Can you do that job? I said, yes. They sat there for about 4 hours trying to figure out how to work this camera. I sat there. The next day, I brought my camera in. And they said, you got this camera? I said, yeah, I've had it for 3 years. So, you hired me as a PA.
And you made sure to tell me that. So you can't look at me sideways when I didn't give you the information because you made sure to put me in my place.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I stayed in my place.
Yeah. And that's part of me being an asshole bringing my camera because I wanted them to know that I could have helped them if they hadn't have done what they did. But the main thing is, getting back to what we're talking about, as filmmakers, especially as beginning filmmakers, you do the work that you can, but you do the best work you can on a level that you are. If you have $1,000 budget, you make the greatest $1,000 film you can. You don't try to make a $5,000 film. If you have $10,000, you make the best $10,000 film you can. Don't try to make a $20,000 film because you're going to fall short. Plain and simple. And if you take that $1,000,
I tell people,
if you take that $1,000 and you make the best $1,000 film you can, then somebody might give you $5,000 to make a $5,000 film, and that's how you grow.
Yeah.
No,
I tell screenwriters all the time, they need to be studying old films from the 60s and 70s, especially in genre. When these guys didn't have nothing but their imagination, some wood and some glue and some feathers to make some great films. And even when they didn't even have that, I was like, well, how do I do this? We need this. No, you don't. When Steven Spielberg did Duel, all he had was the desert. Dennis, I can't remember his last name, and a truck, a car, a truck, and a bunch of desert. And he shot one of the most gripping thrillers with very little dialogue, very little dialogue, right? So he didn't have a whole lot, but that launched his career. When you look at the guys who did the Blair Witch, right? Nothing but some woods, some cameras and wood, launched an entire model of filmmaking, the found footage film, right? We didn't even have found footage film before then. You look at some of these things. One of my favorite horror films in the last few years was Hush. Deaf woman in a house, somebody trying to kill her, and I'm like, this visually stunning, emotionally gripping, and the problem I see too many people is like, well, we can get this, or how do you know you can get this? How do you know? Someone brought me a script the other day. Says, James, I think you would love this script because I know that it's going to be the bomb. You know what my first question was? How do you know? Where's your proof? Where's your empirical evidence? Do you got a budget? Do you got a breakdown? Do you got talent? You know, do you got all of these things, right? Well, you know, I figured no. You can't guess. You can't think. You got to know. You have it or you don't. And that's the business, right? That's knowing how to do business. It's like I tell screenwriters all the time. When you get these opportunities, you can't be ready one day. You got to be ready day one. And so that means doing all the studying. That means doing all everything that you need to do. And so many people are running around they're chasing Tyler Perry. I'm gonna say his name. They're chasing Tyler Perry, but they ain't putting in Tyler work. If you're not,
because
if
whether
you're
you
not
like
putting
that
in the
man's
kind
work
of
or not, whether you like his stuff or not, he is working.
Yeah, and he put in the work.
Now where he puts that time and effort is his business.
Yeah,
but he's putting it in.
He invested in himself. I think Tyler Perry is one of the smartest businessmen of the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
You know, and he found his market and he works that market. My thing with other people is there room for 50 Tyler Perrys?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
And I think that's a problem.
I don't think so.
But the other thing, what I worry about more than anything is us being dumbed down as an audience. Because if you continue to get mediocre or less than mediocre stuff, that's what you get used to, and that becomes, you know, the line,
the high watermark.
That makes you run from what's better, or from or I'm not even going to say better. It makes you run from what's bigger.
Yeah, or what you have to expand your mind to understand. You know?
But I also don't agree with the fact that we cannot. I think that people misconstrue the fact that we also don't get the latitude to make just entertainment. We don't give it to ourselves. Where's our Napoleon Dynamite? Where's our Bill and Ted's Big Adventure? Where's our, you know what I mean? And like, we have them, but I feel like every time we put something like that out, it's our own internal folks. It's our own folks that then have to have 18 think pieces about why it's cooning and why. Sometimes I just want to be enter-freaking-tamed. I don't want to go back to slavery. I don't want to think about being black. I don't want to think about the white man. I don't want to think about misogynoir. I just want to see.
Let me tell you what I thought was
on stage doing some foolishness because it's fun.
Let me tell you what I thought was one of the best movies in the last couple of years I saw about Black people. Was The Blackening.
That movie was hilarious.
So good.
That movie was hilarious.
It was so good.
Did not make the money it should have made.
So good.
For us. And it was an amazing comedy horror movie that we say we want these things and
they won't support it.
We don't support it. And that's the problem. And I'm not saying everybody should go see every movie, but don't complain when you don't have it if you don't support it. You know.
Right.
And so and once again that brings me back to these people making these fours in the movies. They have a big enough audience, because if you're making a movie for $5,000 and you're selling it to Tubi, you know, and you're making $15,000 for the month, you're making a profit. And if making a profit is what's important to you, it's a winning formula. But as Okima said, does that lead to a career in the industry?
No.
You know, because $10,000, you're still going to work on Monday.
Right. Well, and that's the whole thing. That's the reason we wanted to do. When Floyd came to me with the idea to do this episode, I was like, now, you know, with these two, it ain't gonna be like puppies and rainbows. You know that, right?
I ain't want puppies and rainbows.
But no, you never do, right? You never do. We don't really do puppies and rainbows on this show. So I get it. But it's also not a dream. Like, nobody's out here like Freddie trying to kill your dreams either. We're giving you the options. So I want to explicitly thank Patrick and James for giving y'all a real deal and not giving y'all some BS. So you can make an intellectual choice for yourself based on the information that you've been given. And there is no right or wrong, because you have to make that choice and live with it.
Yeah. So we're about to get out of here because I know people have busy lives, but any last thoughts from my amazing panel, Patrick Coker and the incomparable James Moore? Any last words, parting thoughts, advice?
I'll let Patrick go first since I showed up late. I'll let Patrick go first.
No, it's all about growing as an artist, and to make sure that you're in a space, that you're honest with yourself about the space you're in, and make the films that you can make the best at that time. And hopefully you'll grow. That's it.
James?
You know, we live in an interesting time right now as creatives, and I will be the last person to tell you that there are not challenges that we will experience today and tomorrow that we were not experiencing a few years ago. That's self-evident. But at the end of the day, I can tell you this: if you have your material together, if you earnestly and honestly put in the work to make sure that what you bring to the marketplace has the fewest opportunities of being turned down, and that people can see the value in it, the money will come. But as Okima mentioned, the first thing that you need to check at the door before you come to this industry is your ego. Because
Yes.
I've seen egos kill careers. I know people
Yes.
whose careers died 2 days ago, 2 days ago, because of their ego. Now, Patrick may be an asshole, but I'm a super asshole, because I'm gonna just tell you the truth to save you some pain. So the little bit of pain that I'm gonna give you is like this. At the end of the day, there are at minimum 100,000 people trying to enter this industry every single day. Your little bitty story about your grandmother, about your cousin, about whatnot is not going to cut it unless they were a serial killer. Then we can talk about some stuff. But the one thing that you got to do for everybody that's trying to get the credibility that they need in this business, you have to have content. And if you're under 40 and you are not utilizing every bit of social media that you can, that's a problem. There are tools at your disposal right now that can help make you great. And if you're not taking advantage of them, I'm not destroying your career. Okima, Patrick, and Floyd are not doing anything to harm you. You are harming yourself. So when you get up tomorrow morning, ask yourself, am I doing everything I can to build my dream and not expect someone else to do it for me? I'm done.
True. James, you write horror?
James
Oh,
is a
yes, I
big.
do, sir.
Oh, we need to talk, bro. We need to talk.
Did you not pick up my new book?
I need a script.
Oh yeah, I gotta get your book, James. I'm gonna order that this
What's
weekend.
the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Black Bones Jones. I gotta get my copy. I gotta get my copy.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been schooled. If we could, we would pass the plate. But what you can do in absence of that is make sure that you follow both of these amazing filmmakers and their journey, support their work. James just showed you his book, Black Bones Jones by James Moore. You need to go get it. Patrick Coker teaches. He has tons of work. Go back and watch Tales seasons 1, 2, and 3.
Good stuff.
Go, you know what I mean? Go watch East New York. That's him too. Plus, you know, them residuals is nice. So go watch all the things. But know that these gentlemen are giving you the truth. And that's what we do here at A Conversation With. We give you the real so that you know how to make the decisions that make the most sense for you in your career as you go forward. And you know, we will have them back. We will have them back. Because they both have things coming up.
Yes, yes. I'm very excited.
Oh, yes.
And you know, before we go really quickly, Patrick, you're doing something phenomenal in Pennsylvania. Can you talk about that really briefly before we go?
Are you able to talk about it yet?
Are you able to talk about it?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. So my partner and I purchased old school that we're renovating and turning into a studio. And it's a 55,000 square foot building on 10 acres. And we're in the middle of doing that now. So yeah, it's It's a big undertaking. That's what I want to talk to James about before we start renovating. It's a great place for a horror film.
Keep it nice and creepy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now, see, ladies and gentlemen, before we
you-
go, I want y'all to understand what just happened just now. A possible collaboration. So if you're in this business and you are not building relationships and you are not networking and you are not collaborating and you're not talking and you're not asking questions, you could miss out on golden opportunities.
And also what Okima said about putting your ego aside. I'm a writer. I'm a damn good writer. I know James writes horror better than me. And I want it to be a success. So the better chance of it being a success is him writing it rather than me.
Mm-hmm. So, ladies, on that note, you have been given a master class. Make sure that you follow A Conversation with Floyd Marshall Jr. on all streaming platforms. Please.
And gentlemen, and people that don't identify as either.
Yes, all of that. And make sure you go over to the YouTube channel, Floyd Marshall Jr. Follow the channel. Make sure that you are following James Moorer. Make sure you are following Patrick Coker. Please make sure that you are following Okima T. Moore on all social media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, follow these people and stalk their Instagrams so you can learn stuff. There is nothing like getting phenomenal information for free. You have gotten an hour and 9 minutes of masterclass information for the low price of free. So now what you do with it is up to you. If you don't use it, you can't come back a year later and say, well, I don't know what didn't happen, because again, you were just given a masterclass for the low price of free. You ain't had to pay nothing for it. And on that note, thank you so much. Have a
lifetime happy day of fours if you got it and don't use it. Enjoy your fours.
There you go. There you go. Enjoy your threes, enjoy your fours, but other people that will listen to this will be enjoying their tens. So, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you again for joining myself, Patrick Coker, James Moore, and my phenomenal co-host who has elevated my show, Okima T. Moore. So glad I brought her on. And if you're talking about leveling up, she has leveled this show up so much, it ain't funny. So when you're talking about setting aside your ego and bringing people on that will make that thing that you do better, this is a perfect example of that. And I am so happy that she is my co-host. Best damn decision I ever made. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for watching and listening to A Conversation with Podcast with my amazing co-host, Okima T. Moore, my amazing guest, Patrick Coker, my amazing guest, James Moore. And as always, love it like a hobby, but treat it like a business. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
See ya.